If you've ever had a fondant figure slowly lean over or collapse and crack to the point of no return, this video is for you. Your standing toppers do not need to be stressful, just solid. Let me show you exactly how to make your fondant models stand strong and stay upright. First up, paste matters. You want to use a good modelling paste or fondant with a high amount of gum trag or CMC mixed in. This gives your paste structure and helps it dry firmer and faster. I go into more detail about the best paste in this video here. Also, if you prefer using fondant and CMC for your models, which I personally never do because I only use Saracino modelling paste, then you'll need to let your legs dry a little longer to hold the weight properly. And if you want to speed that up, check out this video. Okay, next, internal support. You need a skewer running through the main part of your figure. At the very least, through the supporting leg so it's properly stuck. It doesn't slide and it can hold the weight of the rest of the body. You're going to go into your ball, pop it down, and you're going to roll on one side, okay? So I'm going to roll more on this side, backwards and forwards. So for you to see it, I'll do it in the air here. So I'm rolling more on this side. That's how you get yourself a tapered sausage. Now, what people do a lot of times is they do this. Never do this. What will happen is you'll get all these ridges. Let me show you if I put that on the table. It's completely uneven all the way around. So the only way you should be rolling is with the palm of your hand by pushing pressure on this side, because that's the side we want to be slightly thinner. Or another little tip is to roll across the length of your fingers. So if it does this thing on the board where it just doesn't roll properly, just add a little bit of vegetable fat down and then it will roll, okay? So you always want to roll, never squash down. So if you go across the length of your fingers, it's still quite even all the way up. And what I tend to do is I can actually just push my fingers down and put a little bit more pressure here, and then it helps to create that tapered look. So that is the starting position of your arms and your legs always, and that's why people always get sausage arms and legs, because they roll sausages rather than the tapered sausage. So the other place you can roll is here, or on this part of your hand here. Either are fine, just never here or this way, okay? And then that would be your first shape of your leg, okay? And then moving on from there, you could follow along with this template or with my hand. So usually the thumb there, so the width of my thumb, everybody's is different, but the width of my thumb, you can just follow. And then you're going to roll backwards and forwards, from side to side even. You want to make sure that you roll. If for any reason you push down like that and it goes really square, what you want to do is just pinch here so it looks a lot more rounded, okay? You don't want that square look, so you can just pinch and correct that, okay? Then the next bit would go there, and then this would be the back of your knee. So we're actually working on the back of the leg, right? And if you notice here, the distance between here and here is exactly the same. So it's the halfway point from your ankle to the top of your leg. And what we're going to do again is roll backwards and forwards. Now I'm going to do this on the table. So you're just going to roll from side to side. And you roll quite far round. Can you see when I roll round? That's actually the side of the leg. Yeah. So this is the back of the knee. And then you can always pop it back on.
then you know you've got it perfect. And then put the leg to the side. And you'll see that this bit now is the calf and this is where your foot is. Now you can cut that to do the heel, or you can use it all by doing this. So you hold where the heel is, go halfway up the foot, have your thumb flat on the top of, flat here, which is the top of the foot. This is underneath, this is where the heel is. This is where the arch is. So what you do is you go halfway up and you almost bring these two finger and thumb together and then that finger together. Can you see from the side now? And then you can, okay, that's your footing. Now what we do want to do is, because it's very bumpy, we want to just smooth this out. So here we used the side of our finger to make the indent, and here. Now here, we're going to use the flat part of our finger, just so you get this gradual increase as you go up the calf there. So again, and again here, if you just push again, you can just pinch it back in. And then you get a much nicer leg. So you can always pop it on there, make sure you're in the right place. I'm actually going to just bring it out a bit more, a bit delicate. Now I don't do much more shaping than that because I do a lot of shaping once it goes on the skewer, because this is our supporting leg, okay? So we're going to put a skewer through the middle of this. Pretty cool, huh? If you want to grab this template, you can get it in the description below and give this a try. Now, let's work on our supporting leg. So I've already created the leg. And what we need to do is grab ourselves a skewer, okay? We're going to put the skewer through. I'm going to show you how to do a standing on your toes supporting leg, which is a little bit more difficult. So if her foot was flat, you would go through here, okay? But I'm going to show you a little bit more of a difficult way. So her toes, we'd need to bring forward. Okay, she had some shoes on, okay? And then I would need it to go through the bottom of her foot there, all the way through her leg. Now, you're going to twist it through. Really important that you twist, okay? If you twist, you get a much tighter hole, which means it's easier to stick this piece to the skewer later. Now, you should have this on your board, not in the air. I'm holding it in the air so you can see it. And the reason being is it will just flop all over the place and then you might come out, okay? So if you've put some toes in, what you can do is hang that over your board like that. Okay, so let's pretend my fingers is the board. And then you twist in, twist, twist, and guide it all the way through the leg. Now, believe it or not, you can feel your way through. Don't hold on tight with your fingers, because what will happen is you'll heat it up and then this will stick and it will twist. We just want to create a nice hole going all the way through the leg at this point. And the reason why we've gone into the bottom is because this is a smaller area. It's easy to find your way out of here, but not easy to find your way out of here. So we're going to twist all the way to the top and then bring it out. So we've just made our hole now. So the next thing we're going to do is put this skewer back in, okay? Now we want to put it back in and stick it in with this sharp point at the base. Now, why do we do that? We do that because this is what's going to go into the polystyrene dummy or the cake or whatever you're going to put it into. If it's going straight into the cake, I would suggest you do it the length of the cake. I never do that. I always put it into the polystyrene. So I check what the polystyrene thickness is and go in there. Be aware, okay, that if it only reaches the bottom of the polystyrene, you've got a really thin polystyrene like this. This bit, because it's so thin and not as thick as here, and there's not enough stick, it's going to make it really unstable, because if you think about it, the stable part is only this bit here, the thickness, okay? So if your dummy comes to here, make sure you push this all the way through a bit more and then cut it underneath, okay? So then you've got that bit more stability, especially if you've only got a little bit to work with. Right, so next really important thing you want to do is add, oh, don't get it on the board like me, that's silly. It's gonna be a nightmare. You wanna make your stick super wet, okay? And then we're gonna pop it back through, but this time we're gonna go through this way because we want the spike at the bottom. So as we go back through, go really, really slowly and twist. Now, the reason why I say go slowly is because what happens is the water twists with the sugar, and then it starts, as you'll feel it as it goes through, you can feel that this is slightly harder to turn, like the sugar is mixing with the water and it's pulling. You can feel it, bit of resistance. That's what you want. Okay, I'm touching very gently as well. You don't want the heat of your hands to warm it up at this stage. Right, I can really feel now that that's starting to stick better. So keep going slowly and then come out the bottom with however much space you need. Right, at this stage, you can really start adding some shape now. What we don't want to do is roll on it. I'll tell you why we don't want to roll, because if we roll, it will roll out a bigger hole inside and it won't grip the leg so much. And this is our supporting leg for our model. It's so important. If this is properly stuck to the skewer, then we're never going to have problems. We can pile on weight and it will never push down. You know, when it like squashes down around the ankle, it's an absolute nightmare. So I suggest a little bit of Trex on your fingers. And then you're going to go back round. So we're just going to go back in and push the leg onto the skewer and smoothing it just as we did before. So we would pinch and then push in. Okay. Here we might want to make a bit more of an arch, so we can do that just by pushing the curve, so we can use the curve of our finger for this. We just push it in like that, creates the arch, tap that way. Then grab the feet, pull it out a little bit more, just like that. I know what you're thinking, that I'm not making this look easy, but if you follow the steps slowly, you can do it, okay? So now what we're going to do is we're going to put the knee in. So the way I always work out the knee is it's literally, see where this starts to curve? It's literally the other side there, okay? The way I do it though is I put my finger and thumb here and I slowly go forward and then I pinch. And then I put my finger there and just rub down. So can you start to see this is the quad? This is the knee, and this is the shin. So this must always, always be really straight because we've got a bone running down here, so that can never really have shape. Then you can just go in, you can, a couple of little pinches, okay. Make sure it's really stuck around the foot as well, that's really important. And then pull it out. And then you can see, you can feel that that's not going anywhere. That is properly stuck. And if I leave that for like half an hour, or you can even leave it for a lot longer, it's going to be completely stuck to this. I'm not going to have any problems. Sometimes if you know this bit's not going to be seen, what I do is just to make it a little bit extra support, is almost bring this up the top of the leg here. I mean, I don't know if it works, but it makes me feel better. Okay. Anything that gives a bit more support, you can just do that. Okay. And then leave it to dry. So make sure if you're making 2 of these that you do them at the same time and you match them. That's really important. I often do every single stage at the same time. But grab your sheet and give this a go. You will be surprised what you can achieve. And you can also do the bent leg as well, okay?
If you're using a thick wire instead of a skewer, make sure you wrap it in florist tape first, otherwise it won't stick to the paste and your model might keep sliding down. Same goes if you're creating a whole internal frame. And please make sure it's food safe, especially if you're making cake toppers for kids' cakes. Watch the video here about how to keep their cakes safe. You also need to leave enough stick or wire out the foot to push that into the cake or the polystyrene dummy. That's what really anchors the whole figure. Personally, I prefer building models on a polystyrene dummies, especially when the figure has small feet or a narrow base. It's just way more secure than trying to get it straight into a cake. But if it's something with a nice wide base, like a princess dress, a sitting animal, or a seated figure, that's usually fine to go straight through the cake. If you want to turn the model into a keepsake or display piece, use a 1-inch deep dummy covered in fondant and attach your model using a little fondant glue. You can also make a fondant plaque instead, but if you do, it needs a lot of drying time before you add the weight on top of it. If it's still soft, the figure will make the plaque bow and create cracks as it dries. And finally, before you even try to make a standing model, make sure you know your foundations. I break all of this down in my free 4-part video series. It covers materials, shapes, and brings everything together as we make this cute little baby figure. It's totally free and designed to boost your modelling skills in just a few hours. The link for this is in the description. If you found this helpful, let me know below and I'll see you in the next video.